What up, fam? Today's episode, I have the absolute pleasure of chatting with my good friend and just an incredible human altogether. She has a bachelor's and honours in health and community studies. She's a surf survival apnea instructor. She's a neuroenergetic kinesiologist. She's a surf and swim coach, a habit change practitioner, a mum of two, an absolute dedicated wife, and she is the amazing Sally Howe from Flowstate, Mind, Breath, Motion. And in this episode, episode 2 of Becoming Human podcast, we dive deep into kinesiology, working energetically. We talk briefly about the society and civilization in which we live in today, and we just go deep into the rabbit hole. And I absolutely love connecting and chatting with Sally every time we get together. And I really look forward to getting back into work with her. And I'm super stoked to bring you this episode, and I know you'll love it just as much. Enjoy, fam. Sally.
Hi.
Yeah, on. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
This is episode 2 of our Becoming Human podcast / vlog. Now, I'll go ahead and say with a bit more confidence now for episode 2, thinking I'm a veteran after one episode, but I'm going to go ahead and say I am well biased in this domain of who I'm going to actually be chatting with over the following months / years. And the reason being is I'm quite passionate about what I do as a human being and showing service, and then who I choose to have within my bubble or my sphere of influence. And I like to have conversations that are of the same nature. That does not mean that I'm always going to agree and that we can't still be friends. However, my biased opinion is that I select people based upon how incredible I think they are, the purpose and their mission within this world. So Sally Howe from Flowstate, Mind, Breath, Motion, thank you.
Oh, thank you. That was
you.
very kind. I'm stoked that you asked me, and also I resonated with it quite a lot. Didn't even hesitate. So yeah, I'm happy to share and go on a journey with you.
Perfect. It's the world we live in right now is quite bizarre. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that people saying, we're in these uncertain times. But I think, really in life, it's always uncertain, right? Like there's a level of uncertainty at any given stage. It's just a matter of knowing how we show up in the world, do you think?
Oh, 100%. And the way that I look at it, you're right. I mean, the world is always uncertain, but it's bringing a focus to people to actually highlight how uncertain life is in general. I mean, we don't have any control over what is happening in the future. We can only influence what's in the now. And I see that there's a great value with what's happening globally and in Australia, is that it's allowed people firstly to stop lockdown and kind of reassess where their priorities are and where their energies are. But it's also highlighted, I think, the importance of knowing what you're doing at that moment, instead of being too far in the future or too far in the past or too far into your phone, or it's given that all responsibility. Everybody is responsible for their own certainty, and it's up to you how to be able to process that, or the opportunity to process it, which this is, I think.
I completely agree. And there's this language of collective trauma. And whilst I don't disagree with that terminology, I think we can reframe that or recreate a new narrative moving forward. It's a collective evolution. And I think you're spot on. Like, it's given people the chance to stop. And for first off, like, we don't need to go to places of work now to be able to facilitate, our work or our 9-to-5 jobs. And that's a beautiful thing in itself, because it's bringing home parents and families and bringing them back together, which is absolutely amazing. And I think, an important thing you just said in there, especially technology, people living in this phase of being on phones. And now I know for myself, like here in Victoria, it is mandatory mask wearing. And I'm searching as a human, I'm searching for more connection through other avenues. So I'm exploring more senses through my connection with humans, because I can't see smiles anymore. I can't
Yeah.
see the two missing teeth from the bogan down the street, which gives me a smile as well. That's not to be judgmental, but you know, I'm looking for these things in people, and now I've got to search deeper. And I think that's coming out. So in that collective evolution stage, I think that's where we should be heading. And I think definitely as practitioners, or in our sense, our clinical sense of how we facilitate our work, I think, it's a very important role right in this moment.
And I think that, you know, even within that situation of the mask wearing, that's an extreme change is what we're all used to. You know, we're used to picking up on social cues from people's faces and their emotions, and that's been taken away. And having the ability to adapt in any situation has been so strong this year. I mean, we literally live on the border. We're 700 meters from the border, but the crossing that we actually, you know, it's for essential services, so we have to do the whole round. And when we had the initial lockdown, we were like, well, we can't drive over, but no one's stopping us walking and cycling. So we were still able to go to the beach, and we adapted our daily routine to make sure that we could get out with the kids, get some activity, get some water time, and then go back and, you know, do the schoolwork or vice versa. And instead of sitting there and getting angry about this fact that we've got two things going on, because we've got coronavirus and this border thing going on, it's about just changing it all around. And we've been able to do that. We ride bikes a lot more. The kids are loving riding their bikes. You know, we've got a trolley on the bikes. If we want to go to the beach, we just put everything in. Even if I've got a class and I work out of Queensland, you know, there's been multiple times where I've started driving and the traffic's just horrendous, so I go back and get my bike, and it's frustrating at that one moment, but then it's like, I'm not going to let it beat me. Let's just do something else. Let's just mix it up, and then all of a sudden I get the desired outcome anyway. And I really hope that people take that from this situation and adapt the, you know, habitual ways of like how you've been living your whole life, and bring some new energy into it, because that's what it's all about. You know, it's just bringing some newness. And, you know, people are losing jobs, but there might be other jobs that they might be even better at. I mean, it's tough, and I totally like myself, we've been impacted. My husband was made redundant, and I understand that, you know, there's some quite full-on mental health things going on for people at the moment because of that uncertainty, and that maybe not being able to adapt and have that confidence to be able to do it. But it's also just remembering that this is a really unique situation as well. And there's lots of golden nuggets within it, if people can move through their personal battles as well. So
I like the new energy, and that makes me think something I think about regularly, especially when I'm out in public, and that's not all too often. I go to the butcher, and then I go to the physio and the chiropractor, and then I go home. So that's kind of my public interaction. But I love feeling and seeing people who wouldn't necessarily have the confidence that they normally have, but now that there's a mask on, it's like this new superheroes like emerge. And I hope that hangs around. I know a lot of people get offended and they're like, oh, you just think you're powerful. But I think it's such a beautiful thing, because I think previously these people were so intimidated by connection with humans, and it's taken this for them to build a bit more confidence. And I hope it hangs around. I really do. Like, I really do, because I feel like those people are going to add to that collective evolution as well. And that new energy, I'm going to hold on to that and write that down. But I like that new energy. Before we go too deep into this rabbit hole, please, for everybody who's going to join in listening to this, please let us know what you do, who you are, and what it's all about.
Right. Wow. So I am a kinesiologist. So I run my own business, Flowstate, and I'm a kinesiologist. That's where the business kind of started. I'm a surfer. I'm an ex-competitive swimmer and swim coach. I'm also a surf coach as well. And I last year went through with yourself and some of the other boys doing the surf survival apnea training to be an instructor, and that's just been awesome. That's been totally life-changing. So I run the surf survival course, an ocean confidence surf survival for women, and also do the a breath flow course with the ice bath at the end, and run a weekly breath class as well, which is proving to be really successful. I just started it just before lockdown, so had to go pretty much 3 weeks in, went on to doing it online and got a consistent following, which was really nice. But now we're back in the studio and have a crew that comes every week, and they work on their breath holds, which is really good because it a little bit of camaraderie, but it's also that motivation as well. And we work on some different techniques just to get the rib cage moving, and you know, build up that CO2 tolerance. And yeah, it's good, it's fun. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do in my work life. And in my personal life, I've got running around after 2 kids. I've got a 5 and 8-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah, so me and my husband are always pretty busy trying to entertain them, which is fun. It's good.
And it must be challenging, right? Like coming from so many like different kinds of backgrounds, even though like for us, we know how they interlink. For some people, they may not know how it interlinks, and we can get into that a bit after. But it must be kind of frustrating sometimes coming from those backgrounds and then stepping into the mum role. Like, is that, you know,
it's funny you say that, because so my son who's 8, he is a very sweet and loving kid. And because he's so sweet and loving, he's also quite sensitive as well. And ever since he was a toddler, he's always done this, just has these massive meltdowns, you know, and they're heartbreaking. But when he was younger, you know, I just used to sit in the room with him because he'd be throwing stuff all over the place, and I'll be like, okay, I'm not touching you, I'm just here. But you know, I mean, that's kind of moved now that I need a different interaction with him. And the thing that's quite interesting is I know these tools, I know these kinesiology tools and breathwork tools to be able to allow that sympathetic nervous system to drop, and, you know, and to be able to bring some calm and stuff. But when you've got a small child that doesn't want you to touch them, and they don't want to listen to you and all the rest of it, I'm like stuck in this kind of like vortex of like, I know what to do, I know something, this will help you, but then at the end of the day, he doesn't want that. So I've kind of had to like adapt it a little bit. I mean, at that time, I just hug him, I just give him lots of love, and I let that emotion come out, because I think it's really important, especially for boys, to make sure that they're able to regulate their emotions. And then when he's fine and we're playing, or like this morning we went for a walk down at Greenmount, and we were talking about, he was saying he was hungry because we didn't have breakfast beforehand, and I was saying, well, this is an opportunity for you to be able to go, yeah, I know I'm hungry, but there's nothing I can do about it now. Let's enjoy the walk, get in the van and get home, and I'll have some food in 10 minutes. And it was easier said than done, because you go, oh, but I'm so hungry. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to remember, this is about controlling your emotions around it, you know. And we had this conversation, and he knew by the end of it, he knew what was going on. But I think he's formed a bit of a habit that when he's hungry, he's like, I'm hungry. And then that obviously leads into a little bit of a meltdown or him crying. So it's, yeah, so I've learned that in the good times, and when there's this time and the space and they're calm, to talk about the breathing. I mean, they voluntarily tape their mouth shut all the time with sellotape, so I'm good with that. But talk about nasal breathing. We talk about, you know, if you're upset, just panting lots and lots isn't great. You need to breathe in your tummy, and we try and I try and make it fun, basically, and turn it into a bit of a game. So when there is that critical moment and there is a meltdown happening and there's no buffer of emotion, at least he knows what I'm talking about, because we get sport that are going, you should do this right now, because it just doesn't work.
I mean, at that age as well, you know, we get so focused as parents as just trying to keep order and make sure everything's flowing efficiency and conveniently as well. And as much as it'd be nice for conveniency, I think sometimes the priority is to make sure that those key elements of emotion and understanding emotions and emotional interpretation, and then the physiological responses and understanding them is just so important. And then creating that connection, especially as you hug them, like you said, you hug him, like just hold that space. Like that's perfect. Like You know, in the previous week, I finished a book. I actually posted about it last night. I finished a book called Discipline Without Damage, and it was by Dr. Vanessa Lapointe. And she talks about the same exact situation, how kids just look for that connection. And when the connection's broken through or severed through whatever means, we just need to tether that connection. And that usually just involves hugging, just letting them know, reassuring. And if we can sneak in some of those breathing, you're already ahead of the game because your kids are already taping their mouths shut and that's perfect. You know, but it's so vital. And I think, yeah, as we were chatting just before with this collective evolution, I think moving in the next generation, being aware of their emotions, being aware of nasal breathing. I think so many things are going to change for us as a society. And that's beautiful. It must be, and your hubby would be on board, like he'd be emulating.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
he's doing his own reading around certain breath work, and you know, I obviously introduced a different perspective to him even when I started doing kinesiology, and but he, since this year and having time and you know, not having the pressures of being at work, he's really embraced that. So it's nice that we're on the same page with that now, and also just parenting the children differently.
Yeah,
you know, giving them space to be able to cry or to, you know, to mess up or do whatever, and then support them after that, and explain to them if they could be doing something differently, or, you know, just getting them to think about it, really. So yeah, so it's definitely, we've come a long way in the last couple of years, and this year's been such a blessing. I think it's been great. It's you know, within the perceived disaster, there are silver clouds out there. It's good. So
yeah, I think we should mention as well. So there's the survival apnea, or the surf survival course that we did last year. We did with our good friend Jason Rice, who is the founder and director of Survival Apnea Australia. And basically the course is about you know, building resilience, adaptability within stressful situations, and that's created through perceived stressful situations in the water. And the water is the big leveler. We all know this. You know, some people are comfortable, some people are not. You're very comfortable in the water, being a very proficient swimmer and a surfer as well. And during this course, you know, I think we all, even the dudes who are killing it, or in our course, the dudes who are killing it, I think we all face some sort of, you know, stress or perceived stress in some regard. And you did mention that you teach a surf class, or a surf school for women.
yeah, I did. I used to work for Salty Girls Surf School down in Kingscliff with Burnett Fuller, and did that for nearly 3 years, and that really did. It helped me set off on this path, you know, and it was interesting because it wasn't just about pushing women on waves. It was beyond that, so beyond that. I mean, we have them for 8 weeks, so you really get to know them. And I just found so many women coming and having this, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm totally going to do this. Been wanting to do it. This is my opportunity. And then get in the water and just freeze. You know, just the fear would come up, or frustration, or, you know, they've been triggered by something that day. And yeah, my counseling background came in quite handy sometimes. And it really made me, because I'd started my kinesiology training just after I started working there, and it just gave me more motivation to be able to help these women, and you know, because there was this real physical stress. You could see it in the way they were moving, and you know, and I would have some women come and see me, or we would work through things in the surf, and then all of a sudden it just dissolves, and they can move freely, and the confidence comes in, and yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's just watching people on their journey to be able to progress through, and not give up. And some people did give up. Some people, you know, might have got a knock or just found it too difficult. But it was, yeah, really empowering to watch these women take on fears, because a lot of the women were 30 plus, so a lot of them have had kids already, and you know, go to the beach and then they can't surf with their family, so they want to learn how to surf, you know, and yeah, so it's yeah, so it was interesting, and I could relate to a lot of what they were going through.
Do you see a lot of, like, is there a big differentiation between female resilience and male resilience in that environment? Because you've seen both. I mean, that's what I was going to get at, is the fact that, you know, we did that course together. You're the only female on the course, held your own, might I say. And, you know, you've seen the resilience that some men go through, especially in work as a kinesiologist. And now you're in this situation where, you know, females have come for a specific or niche kind of application of work. And now they're developing in such a different way. And I'm guessing the transferability from a female to a mother role, like that resilience in the surf or in that perceived stress environment, is just going to create so much more different, or plenty of more different characteristics as a mother as well. Is there a big differentiation between female resilience and male?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just if I compare how Jason delivers a course compared to how I deliver a course,
right,
completely different, you know, completely different. I have had males on the course as well, but I'm attracting more females, and I'm definitely wanting those ladies, or a lot of the ladies that come along, and the ones that I want to be able to attract are the ones that have gone, right, I'm going to learn how to surf. Then they get good enough to get out the back, the waves get a bit bigger, they get held down, and then they get shit scared. And then they're like, hold on, what's going on? And it goes from that complete ignorance of what the surf's doing to a complete like, oh, okay, I've just reached my limit. Kind of liked it when I was completely ignorant of it because it was more fun. But now I'm at this point where I need to be able to work on something, because every time I'm going out, you know, they remember that fear, they remember the situation. And so many of the girls that I've spoken to have had this happen. And just working with them through the surf survival course, and also I run a one-day evolve surf program that incorporates a bit of the surf survival, the ice bath. We do some land-based surf training, and then we also do some mobility work. And you know, the story seems to be the same. Yeah, you know, I was going good, and then this happened to me, and now I've come to this stop. And it's being able to, for me, go, that's perfectly normal. That's like, that is the progression of surfing. You know, you don't always just go straight up. There's a little bit of a progression, and then you plateau, and a bit more, and then plateau. But giving them the skills, because a lot of the girls go out and they pick it up, which is fine. But then I find, particularly with women, that they need to be able to think about it before it happens. So giving them this information, especially with the surf survival, all that physiology stuff, and, you know, just understanding how the brain works, how the body works, what the sensations are, and then re-establishing a relationship with those sensations. Because like previously, it's like, oh, I'm getting these sensations, that means that I'm panicking, or I'm running out of oxygen, or whatever. And then just getting them to, watching these women understand that process of going, actually, that's your CO2 tolerance, and you're working to train that sensation. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, right. Oh, so I'm all right then. Yeah. You know, and it's like giving them permission to be okay in the uncomfortable situation, you know, and then the real learning starts, because then they're like, oh, well, if I can do that in the pool and hold my breath for 2 minutes in the pool, or swim half a length, or get tumbled, or whatever, then wow, that opens up so much more for me to do in the ocean, you know. So it's it is really empowering, but making sure, I find, for me as an instructor with women, connecting them with and acknowledging the emotion of it, is so important. So important. And allowing the girls to be able to discuss what that means to them, you know, instead of just going through the course, because I want them to be able to relate to something that really triggers them to go, oh, okay, I know what I'm going to be doing with this now. Yeah. So so very, I mean, men and women are different. We just, you know, we like to pull things apart and make sure that we know exactly what's going on before it happens. And those are who are mums as well. I mean, like, we've got that maternal instinct that kicks in, and it's really important to understand that as well, because you don't want to be thinking that you're doing something irresponsible and not being able to go home and look after the kids. So it's it's there's a lot of different things to take into consideration, I think.
See a lot of that, yeah, with mums that, you know, they've got that distinct primal characteristic that kind of separates them from, and that's not to say that other females that don't have kids won't, you know, get to that stage, but there is that next level and that analytical mind. It's so, like, females are proactive and males are reactive, and I see that so much in perceived stress situations, just the same as when I run workshops and, you know, people are doing breath holds, for instance, and they want to max out. And then already there's this environmental or societal energy around the male demographic of, I'm going to beat you, or he's doing more than me, or I'm doing this, where the analytical female mind is like, well, I know that if I can do this and I have this reaction or this is triggered, then I'm going to be able to be this. And it's so calculated. And I mean, we all get to the same position in the end. I guess that's the beauty of, you know, human nature. But it's so funny that the difference between the both, you know. And, you know, I guess you would see a lot as well in the surf, water being the big leveler, and being a kinesiologist, you'd identify it almost like, or I'd say diagnose it almost instantly, is trauma or emotion coming to the surface as a result of these perceived stressful situations triggering that. You see that a lot?
Oh, 100%. You know, in the, take for example, I was coaching a couple of ladies the other week, and we were surfing a really small wave, not busy. That most of the people that are out there were the same level as her. There's pretty much everybody was a beginner, and I was teaching her to sit where the wave's breaking, so right on the sandbar, as opposed to everybody who was sitting like really, really far out. And I was explaining, you know, what they're doing is they're having to paddle all the way to where we're taking off. But that just freaked her out. That whole concept of the fact that they were paddling, not able to catch the wave, and then we could turn around and catch the wave because we were at that you know, the takeoff zone, just brought out so much for her. And and it's been an interesting journey, because I think that through our surf lessons and our conversations and doing some kinesiology on her as well, she's coming to the conclusion that she's quite an anxious person. She goes, I never thought I was an anxious person, but I'm starting to realize that I'm an anxious person, which is great, because that awareness is the first step of being able to look at things and do things differently. And it's the surf it's a huge trigger. And, you know, and especially if things have happened in the past in the surf that she has, you know, locked in because she's either been held down or a near miss or whatever, then that just becomes a trigger for everything to come out as well. So, yeah, so it's definitely, and even for me, I mean, it's definitely something that surfing's such a mind sport. I mean, it's physical 100%, but it's such a mind sport. You're the only person that can catch the wave at the time. You have to make your own decisions about where you're sitting. You know, you can't rely on anyone else like in a team. And sometimes you have to make decisions in a really small amount of time. And sometimes, you know, it goes well, and other times it can end up with you feeling very uncomfortable and in an uncomfortable situation, you know, which could be perceived as dangerous. But some might not be dangerous. It depends what your understanding and skills are. You know, so it's perception
of the situation as well.
I mean, like if you take a big wave surfers, I'd never go and surf 10 foot, but to them it's scary, you know. And I bring that down to the women that I work with, that 2 foot for me or 1 foot for me might not be scary at all, but for these ladies it's real. And it is, and to be able to get them past that, you know, you have to do it in the right type of way. Otherwise, they're never going to be able to have the confidence to get into bigger stuff. So,
and this is where the breath work comes in. I mean, for the both of us, you are a well-experienced, well-versed kinesiologist and breath practitioner. I dabble a little bit in kinesiology, or the fundamentals of kinesiology, as what I do with the breath work. And this is where it kind of interjects. We're talking at the start as to why all these things connect. This is where that breath comes in, and why it's so important to bring that body back down and down regulate to a state of I am okay.
Yeah. And that's the kinesiology led me into the breath work big time.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the main objectives from having a session is that we're not magicians, even though some of the stuff that comes out is like,
but it's real magic.
It's
magic,
amazing magic. It really is. It really is magic. But there's some, you've got to have some ownership over what comes up in the session. You need to be able to take the information that's come up and then implement some changes, because otherwise, you know, how does the new direction start if you don't do anything about it? You know, somebody might feel great for about 2 weeks, but if they're not implementing a change, then, and that's why I really wanted to do some breath work, and I was searching because I was thinking, well, a lot of these people are breathing from the chest and they're breathing fast and there's panic and there's anxiety coming out. And I was like, wow, if I could give them some really simple breath exercises, then at least that gets them to calm their nervous system enough to be able to think about making a different plan or approaching something in a different type of way.
Right.
So yeah, and I use it in every session. I use it at the beginning, I use it at the end. I'll prescribe different breathing exercises depending on what's going on with them as well. And even just talking to them, I feel that a lot of people, when they think about breath work, they relate it to yoga, and they relate it to, well, I do yoga, so I go and breathe once a week for an hour on a I don't know, Wednesday night. And it's like, well, that's great, that's awesome, but this is about learning a life skill that you can implement at any moment in any day. You know, it's taking away that box that it's a particular type of skill that only certain people can do. And this is what Wim Hof has done with his stuff. I mean, like, he's mad as a hatter, and I love him to pieces because he's crazy, but he's basically breaking down these walls and saying, we breathe every moment of every day. Let's think about breathing well, and there's great things that can happen, you know, and I think that it's great that he's breaking down those barriers, and I want to be able to do the same so people can, you know, experience, say, a stressful situation at work and then go off of 2 or 3 minutes and come back and feel okay because they've been able to know how to regulate their state and change their state. So it's yeah, it's so powerful. It's and so simple and free. After you learn how to do it, you can do it anywhere. That's what's powerful.
You get that from everyone, right? Like, everyone, you talk to someone, like, what do you do? And you say, you know, I'm a breath practitioner, I facilitate breath work. What do you mean you teach people how to breathe? Don't we all just breathe anyway? Yes, but you have that conversation. And there's so many things that come from breath work in terms of not just health benefits, but, you know, even as humans, our dysfunction in communication sometimes, our dysfunction in connecting with, like, energetically or in society. Like you said, going away for 3 minutes can bring perspective to the situation. It's going to down-regulate you. So it's almost like you're seeing it in two different people. Up-regulated, you're in this state of survival. There's lots of cortisol and adrenaline flooding through the body. You're perceiving the world in a crazy place, and then going away and breathing for 3 minutes and just bringing the body back down to homeostasis. You now be able to perceive the situation as completely different. And now a new language of communication exists or is available to you because you've done that work. And we wouldn't need to be doing this if everybody just did the breathing correctly. Like, it's fantastic that we exist, Wim Hof exists, you know, people like James Nestor are writing amazing books, or Dan Brulé are writing amazing books, fantastic. But the whole idea of this fundamental of breathing is that we are born to do it, and we just do it incorrectly. And then from that, the byproduct is all these metabolic dysfunctions, or even, you know, just basic human dysfunctions, communication and whatnot. And so we live in this state of survival. And now you throw in the mix, not that I wanted to go down this route, we don't have to, but you throw in the mix the big pandemic at the moment, and already people are in this state of survival, and now you're telling them that they need to be more scared.
Yeah, and the biggest killer of the immune system is stress.
Right.
It's so counterproductive. It's like that, you know, I spoke to my husband very early on in this whole, the beginning of lockdown, and I was like, well, let's try and not get stressed or be stressed about this, because that is the biggest killer. And yeah, I mean, everyone's still going to get bugs, and there's things going around school and all the rest of it, but we have complete choice over how we think and how we look after our health and well-being, and that's the biggest power that we can have in this whole situation, you know. And if you add breathing on top of healthy eating and going to bed on time and not drinking too much and all the rest of it, I mean, that's the best defense that you can have for any virus that's going around, or disease, or, you know, because don't feel, I mean, there's still plenty of other things killing people in the world apart from coronavirus, and you know, so it's I've got a strong intention that I'm not going to be getting sick of anything, really, you know. It's whether it happens or not is not my control, but I can have a thought of and an intention. So it's
thought and intention, that's good. And then, you know what, statistically, loneliness is actually the leading cause of sudden mortality or early mortality. And loneliness is caused from a manifestation of stress or anxiety, creating mood disorders. I mean, we put so many different labels on the fact that our bodies are just like, just let me calm down for a little bit. But, you know.
And then everyone's being told that they can't go out and they've got to be on their own, you know. What about all these people that live on their own? You know, it's I know. It's a recipe of bad things altogether, and I appreciate that not everybody is as aware or as motivated or as healthy or as, you know, and I feel for those people that are subject to these boundaries being coming in, and for them feeling helpless as well, because it's I mean, it's I can see it, try and see it from other people's point of view. Obviously it's I can just imagine it, but it's a tricky situation. It really is.
I mean, you know, the language we talk to ourselves in, you know, nobody can take our power, because unless you're willing to give it away, you know, but the language is our power. And the way, you know, the TV is telling us this, Facebook's telling us this, the media is telling us this is how we should be scared. Well, should I be? I am fit, I am healthy, I drink lots of water every day, I surround myself with great people, I have good intention, I have clear intention, I do not have anything to be scared of. And it's as simple as that, right? Like that habit change in itself, from moving from a state of survival to a state of, you know, I am in control, I have my power, I am fit. That's crucial.
Yeah. But what about before coronavirus, if somebody wasn't even remotely near kind of knowing those things and was always living their lives in a state of panic and drama and just crazy, then, you know, having a legitimate pandemic stuck on top of that, then that's just a Hollywood drama waiting to happen, isn't it? Or already happening, should I say, you know? So it's it's definitely, on a personal note, it's definitely given me some interesting insight into how people process what's going on, and especially at those beginning stages, because everybody was a little bit rattled, obviously, like all people, and then seeing where that went was fascinating to watch, actually, how people were processing things and what they were thinking and doing. So yeah, including ourselves, because we just got to the point where we were just like, well, there's not a lot we can do about this, let's just continue being parents and going to the beach and having outdoor time, because we were fortunate to have that, and I know that not everybody was fortunate to have that in the world, and that must have been really difficult. So and
that's I'm going to butcher this with a terrible British accent, but Ross Edgley, the dude who swam around Britain, always says, control the controllables, don't worry about the rest. And that's it, right? Like, control the controllables, don't worry about anything else.
Good accent as well. No, it's totally that. It's totally that. And my good friend Ross Armour, he was like, he pretty much said the same thing, and he was like, you just adapt. If you can't do something, just adapt. You know, I suppose he was the one that got me on the whole adaptation thing. But it was so true, because every time something got difficult, I didn't get frustrated with the difficultness about it. I was like, right, okay, well, I can't do it that way. Let's do it this way. And you just get to the same end destination, but through a different means. And it's funny, because even when I'm saying this, I've always had that ability, because I'm dyslexic, and I wasn't diagnosed until my second year of university. So I was like, 22, because I went to uni a bit later. And so that has been my coping mechanism throughout all my school life, because my school life was not great. And if I couldn't spell something, for example, it's a real simplistic way of doing it, I would just use another word. Right. And I'm like, I already kind of do this anyway, just to be able to, you know, write stuff. And then all of a sudden the internet came out, and I could check all my spelling, and I'm like, yes.
Sega.
Yeah, but it's an interesting process to be able to go through. So, yeah.
But it's good, I think, because funnily enough, like it's all about that habit change, and coincidentally, you are a habit change coach, correct?
Yeah.
And these changes in habits, I feel, for the most part, have been healthy. For instance, you said you can't drive to certain places because of traffic. Now you have the ability, and are able to have the ability to ride, and like just how much, you know, already you're doing better for your body by getting on a bike than you might be getting in the car. Although not so convenient, there's so much more there, so much more beauty and growth in that habit change than there is.
Connection to community. We're constantly saying hello to people who are riding around, because, you know, our kids go to school here, so we're seeing school kids and parents and teachers or whatever, you know, and it's great. It's so nice that you can go somewhere, and when you're in a car, you're just in a box. You don't have that connection. So it's
you're connected to the road, like, and even then you're disconnected from your kids because you're focused on the road. And now, I imagine where you're living right now just looks like California in the 60s. Everybody's riding around.
There's a lot more people cycling though.
Yeah.
But,
good.
Yeah, but this going back to habit change stuff, I think that you know, initially when the lockdown happened, those people who were very habitual, I think, struggled, because their whole routine was put out. Their whole, like, exactly knowing each step of the way throughout the whole day, they had to reconstruct it. And I know people, friends of mine, who are very habitual, and it was just like, what? And you could literally see little fuses just blowing in their brain, and they had to adapt and be able to have something new. But then on the other hand, there may you know, situations where there may have been some quite bad habits happening that in the household, for example, because of work, or stresses because of work. Then all of a sudden there was an opportunity to have that space of change. Right. And it wasn't like a wife having a go at husband to be able to make him change. It was something that was completely out of everybody's control. Yeah. And it was, I think that the realization that everybody was in the same boat was so powerful, because then there was a choice of what the new behavior would be, or the new, you know. And I really hope that that the things that people started doing in lockdown have become habits, because there is a bit of a commonly held belief that it takes about 21 days to be able to form a new habit. Yeah. But actually not technically true. It takes between 18 and 254 days to form a new habit. And with an average being about 66 days, depending on
the habit itself.
The habit itself, or the person. And so it's I think we're probably well over that 66 days now.
Yeah, I think we're doing well. I mean, there's like the whole COVID thing, like it just leveled society. You know, there's no expert in how to navigate this situation. So all of a sudden, nobody's an expert. Nobody has any idea on what to do. And now everybody's on the same path. So there's like this new level of respect. So I feel like, even looking at it today, like as a society, we've done pretty well, because I haven't heard as many reports of businesses going under because some foot soldiers banged up the CEO or something. So, you know, I think we've coped quite well in terms of that. And like you say, that development of the habit, we've definitely had plenty of time, and I feel like we're still going to have an opportunity to practice, but I know for sure as we move into the next stages of whatever our growth as humans is, we're going to be more resilient holistically, purely based, whether it's negative or not. Thanks, Bill Gates. You taught us all a lesson, even though you pocketed most of it. We all now are more evolved and advanced as a human society because we've had this ability to go, all right, I need to change my ways.
Yeah.
And whilst I'd like to see, I'd like to see a lot more. I see places like Mexico, places in Scandinavia, Sweden have made distinct changes to reducing carbon footprint, the nutritional side of things, even the way they're letting kids participate in schooling, I talked about this on my last episode with Sarah, but, variation, they've exposed society to the COVID, and now all of a sudden they're learning about what they can become as a resilient society based upon how they've been exposed, and their mortality rates quite significantly low compared to the rest of the world. They're nutritional, they're the lowest on the scale in terms of obesity and insulin levels and diabetes and those kinds of health regulations. And so I would love to see Western society, and I know for myself, I'm trying to implement that a lot more. Do you see that a lot more in your kind of area of work, trying to push that level of knowledge about food, knowledge about dirty energy hanging around you, knowledge about Wi-Fi, are you pushing that just as much?
I mean, I don't really push anything.
Yeah.
But it's definitely just having that awareness of those things. And I think the good thing and the bad thing about people, probably spending more time on their phones because of the lockdown is that there's also more things coming up around 5G, around, what type of foods we're eating, whether we're eating locally, and how we're expelling our energy and be able to, especially for people that are now working at home, they're able to dual up with things. They'll be able to do online yoga class at lunchtime, in the living room, and then go back to work. And there's a lot more freedom. And I think that there's one really good thing about this situation is that it's being proven to business that they can still function with people working from home, which is for kids. It's great for families. You can pick them up from school, bring them home, and it showed that we can function differently in society that is better for family unit, but also better for that individual as well. So there's some good things coming out with this. I definitely, especially with the course that I ran for the 1-day course with the ladies, doing the Evolve Surf program. It's funny because they get a bit of a program from it that Ross designs, and I give them the breathing exercises, and they obviously have the experience of going in the ice bath, and then they come and see me for a kinesiology session. And I've been seeing these girls over the last couple of weeks who are coming in for their kinesiology. And I'll be saying to them, so how's your morning routine and your program going? And they're like, oh, yeah, about that. And this is where that my interest with the habit change is that since I've been running that course, which is over a year now, I just think, well, you've come and paid for the course. You've spent a day doing this. What is going to change next, and how are you going to change that? And I am starting to bring a lot more habit change stuff into the course, but I think it needs to be a little bit more structured now and actually have an element of its own, because they are not incorporating these new tools and not making these changes, but they want to be able to do it because they want to serve better. So there's for me, there's a bit of a gap there that needs to be filled to benefit the participants, and I really want to be able to work with that, definitely.
It's funny how people they get on that ideology or that path of, I am going to invest in my health, and then it's slowly, and it's kind of paradoxical to invest in a habit change program and then not change your habits.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I completely get it. Like that, we're just so conformative to the old patterns of behavior that we've been taught for. I mean, I'm 32 years old. I've got 32 years of conditioning that I've got to reprogram. And I'm sure you've probably got older clients as well, that, it takes a lot. And I think that patience, because everybody wants that quick fix. Like, I've come to see you, Sally. You've put your hands on me in a clinical sense. You've read my energy. I should be walking out of here superhuman. I should be fixed. And that whole idea and that framework needs to be reframed, essentially, because
and I feel that has come from the medical model, I think.
Yeah.
You go see a doctor, you want to have a pill, and then you leave, and it's like, well, that's one way of doing it, but you are giving your power away 100% to that doctor, and you are leaving by just taking pills and not actually thinking about how whatever you're treating is affecting you and what you need to be able to change in your lifestyle so it doesn't continue.
Right.
And it is a different thinking. Like, even in this situation now, like, there's doctors that first bit, there's doctors telling us what we should and shouldn't do and all the rest. And no one was talking to us about how we should boost our immune system, how we need to be able to, look after ourselves and drink water, simple things to be able to, and still there's no conversation on a front, on a media front. And for me, it's very much being able to impart, especially when I do the kinesiology, I have a big spiel at the beginning about saying this is not a one fix situation. This is about exposing you to be able to bring some things from the subconscious up to the conscious, which I read through the body. I mean, it's pretty much reading the body like a book. And at no point in that session am I making decisions based on what I think is right. It's very much based on the biofeedback feedback I'm getting from the muscle testing. And some amazing things. Even the session that I did yesterday, something came up for the lady and she goes, wow, I just have not thought about that for ages.
Right.
And it was a really significant aspect of her life, of what she was dealing with around decision making. She's like selling houses and things like this, and she was like, wow. And talking through that, I was saying, like, you now have this information and this awareness of how you think or how you're feeling, and it's now up to you to implement that and make those changes to make sure that you're empowering yourself to be that, a different type of person if you want to do that, or the person you want to be. So but it's difficult, because if they don't come back, then I'm not reinforcing that. If they would just come for one session, it's like they think, oh, well, I want to fix, and that's it. It's like, well, no, it's a bit of a journey, or you take that and really make your own journey of it. So, yeah.
And ironically enough, the catalyst for change is usually the shit that we deposited years and years ago. And
it comes up and you're like, what is that doing coming up? It's like, oh, your body's holding on to it, and at some point you just need to let it out, and it dissolves. Just having that awareness and that acknowledgement that it's there and does influence your day-to-day life, because we are masters at ignoring things. We are so good as human beings of just going, oh yeah, I don't know what that is. Oh no, actually that's because of this. Or we constantly make excuses for what we do.
Justifying it.
Yeah, justifying it all the time, and going, oh well, it doesn't really matter. It's like, well, if we sit with that and actually think about how that changes or how that influences our day-to-day behavior, then there's some huge, powerful changes we can make that's not complicated. It's just, it's tweaking bits and pieces along the way, but it's doing it. That's the difficult bit.
And that's a big message for people to take home. I mean, and you can take this, for example, as a very generic kind of situation, but humans that have an ailment or they have an irregularity show up, I'm going to go see the doctor. The doctor takes your blood pressure, probably checks in your ears, looks at your tongue maybe, and then all of a sudden you've been prescribed this medication on your way. That's supposed to fix your irregularity. More often than not, that's the case. Doesn't fix it because you're continuously on this medication, or you've been put into the system, or the doctor's upselling through no fault of their own, just the medical system. I'm not downplaying the medical system. It's great for acute trauma. But then for some reason, and I find this in my experience, I'm sure you might be the same, for some reason, somebody that comes and sees me, and then I do all these things by reading their body energetically, going through breath work, going through the birthing journey, going through trauma and unpacking that, and I give them answers, or I'm providing answers, or even creating an opportunity for them to explore the answers. And now all of a sudden, medicine's still the upper level or the upper echelon of what's supposed to be fixing us as humans. And it just like, come on, guys, get on board. Like this is the real magic. This is the magic. You've got to do.
I do feel there's a change. There is a change happening.
There is.
Just even on the Gold Coast with the popularity of more and more people doing ice baths and breath workshops. You know, there's more things that keep on popping up on my Facebook that I'm like, oh, there's someone else doing it, and I think it's great. I think it's so good that, because if there's more people providing it, that means more people can go along and do it, and then that's like, there's, you know, it's I truly believe that I don't think anybody can do their first ice bath and come out of it just feeling exactly the same as they were before they did it.
No way. No.
Yeah. Imagine all these people that are going, hold on, I have the ability to do that. Well, what else have I got the ability to do?
Yeah.
You know, and then obviously having that knowledge of doing however many hours of breath work before that to get them prepared. I mean, this is great. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I think that even this area in particular, I don't know what it's like down your area. You know, we can get vegan, we can get gluten-free, we can get all sorts of health foods here. There's kefirs, there's kombuchas, there's everything. Like compared to where I grew up in England, like we have nothing like that there. So, yeah, it's just like there are choices. It means you can buy all these great things and explore, you know, making things differently, and it's not hugely expensive. I mean, it's not huge. We can budget it out quite well, so it's great having options. It really is. And
it's a good investment. It's not like you're throwing your money away just because you're buying a kombucha or kefir. I mean, come a long way since the mug of Bovril, mate. You know, there's no more Bovril anymore. It's just kombucha.
You can make it yourself, so it makes it
100%. We're a bit desolate down here. I mean, we had the ability that we had beautiful farmland and a lot of close to home, you know, livestock production, not production, but livestock, to be able to come straight from the farm to the butcher, which is beautiful. We got a lot of grocers, which are kind of organic grocers, which is amazing as well. We got a Woolies and whatnot, but it's more, you know, where I live it's a lot more focused on local produce, which is beautiful. Right. It's just a matter of getting that information into people's, and to be quite honest, like there's so much going around at the moment in terms of fad diets, and I feel like if everybody just went, okay, look, stop the soft drinks, stop the sugar, I'm just going to eat a whole food diet. I'm not going to worry about whether it's carnivore, I'm not going to worry about whether it's vegan, I'm not going to worry about whether it's vegetarian. I'm just going to make sure I'm putting organic foods into me and well sourced, ethically sourced meats or produce, you know, then I'm okay, I'm in the clear, you know. And I think just getting that information to people's, that's the big point. But I think you're right. I think, you know, with the growing population of some of these coastal villages, especially along the Gold Coast, I mean, that's quite a big destination. It is growing. And the more it grows, the more we see hipster cafes, the more we see ice bath facilitators and breathwork practitioners. I'm like, you're not holding me in my business way. That's great. Let's all do it together. Let's work together and fix the pandemic itself, which is the metabolic dysfunction, you know. So I think it's beautiful. And I think you're right. I remember my first ice bath and man, like it just, like my avenue of breath work and holistic health is a bit different, a bit of a different laneway, but I use the ice bath and the breath work to release the trauma. So when we work with trauma healing, I use it to dislodge the carbon dioxide to start with the breath work. And then we use the ice bath to upregulate that system and create stress so that now the system entirely is like, someone please control me, and it has to be the consciousness to take over. And with proper guidance and proper facilitation, the consciousness does take over. But I think it's beautiful that people can get and sit down, take a moment. That's beautiful in itself, that somebody can sit down and take a moment. That's incredible. And then all of a sudden they're like, all right, I'm going to do some breath work. And then I'm going to get a nice bath. And all of a sudden I am this new person. Like, that's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's a start. It's a start of them looking at things differently. and having a different perspective on how they feel in a situation as well. You know, they might have got that you know, that real buzz that you get when you get out of the ice bath. I mean, they might experience that from drinking lots of alcohol before, for example. I mean, like, it's a familiar type of feeling, that adrenaline and that, you know, but it's so much more beneficial.
Yeah, it's a more positive health investment.
Yeah, it's so good. And I don't have ice baths every day because it's logistically, I don't have a freezer that I can stick in the garage. So I mean, I do the best that I can and make sure that I have a cold shower. And I also love hot baths, and I love steam rooms and saunas. So the thing that I do is fill the bath up super hot.
Yeah.
And do it about 40 minutes before I jump in, so it allows that chlorine to just evaporate.
Yeah.
And jump in there, and when it starts getting really uncomfortable and getting really hot, I incorporate some of that breathing, just to be able to take me to a little bit of that point of, oh, I can't handle it anymore. And then I jump out to the cold shower, stay in there until I'm like, get to the same type of point where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting a bit cold now, come on, let's do some more breathing, you know, and get it a little bit further, and then jump back in the bath. And I do that, and I tell you what, it's amazing. It's an amazing, it's cleansing, but not only that, it's also just so invigorating as well. It makes me feel fantastic for the rest of the day. And it's just the equivalent of going in a steam room and a plunge pool, or a sauna and, you know, an ice bath or a plunge pool. So
right for the body, you
can do it. I mean, most people have baths or showers at home. You can totally adapt.
I broke my toe 4 days ago, my big toe. And it's the only bone I've ever broken in my body, funnily enough, 3 times. And I broke it the other day wrestling with my 2-year-old. He gets quite ferocious on the mat. And it's funny because I didn't go into the ice bath, which I normally would, because, I mean, that's kind of my conditioning, but I just love ice baths. I chose to use reverse osmosis. So I got in this scorching bath, and I sat in there for 20 minutes, and within 2 days, the swelling went down, and all of a sudden I can walk again. And I was just like,
wow, amazing.
I can do it at home. And I thought, I'm going to tell some more people, because you can do it at home. On the same day, the gentleman that I do hang out with, kind of rolled his ankle and really messed his foot up. And I said, dude, you got to go home and get in a hot bath. And yeah, I think he's in the same way. I think he's doing better. So, you know, we can do these things at home. They're accessible. You don't need an ice tub. You don't need to go buy 300 bags of ice to make it happen. You can do it. The taps go cold enough. They go hot enough. You can do all this at home. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And it is like a little mini workout for your blood vessels, you know. It's expansion, it's contraction and expansion, and it's great. It makes us function a lot better and pumps our blood around and makes us feel awesome.
Well, Sal, I think that's enough rabbit holes for us for today. I love going deep into the rabbit hole with you, and I do enjoy our conversations. I really appreciate you taking the time today to sit and chat, and I hope everybody who listens to this gets a little bit out of it. And if they do want to touch base or get in contact, where can they find you?
So they can go onto my website, which is Flowstate mbm.com.au.
Don't regularly visit it yourself?
I was about to give my email address then, and I was like, no, it's not my email address. So flowstatembm.com.au. So,
and any on social media? You're pretty active on social media?
So social media is the same on Instagram, same setup, and Flowstate Mind Breath Motion on Facebook.
Perfect. And I'll link to that in the show notes when I upload it to YouTube. So we will put this on YouTube and then add a little short clip for our social medias. But Sal, thanks so much, my friend. It was an absolute pleasure.
I
can't wait to catch up again soon and get back in the pool with you and do some more dive work and some more breath work, and really change the world together.
That'll be great. Thank you so much. Great talking to you, and such a privilege that you asked me. So thank you.
Thank you. Much love.
See ya.
See ya, mate.